So often I see people jamming their knees back, and it's great if you have flexible hamstrings, but it's not so great for your knees. Those of us that have any knee issues, whether it be from another sports injury or from the jamming the knees back to come to straight legs, this practice is perfect for you. So enjoy. Let's begin in a standing pose, nice wide stance. So as you come to stand in a wide stance, with your feet parallel, with your knees slightly bent, draw the tops of the thighs back. Now press down through the base of the big toe especially, but press down through your feet very firmly as you take your hands either to the floor or to blocks. Now let's take a look at our knees. With your knees bent, with your feet pressing down, rather than jamming your knees back to come to straight legs, which isn't good for the knees, we are going to press down through the feet and have a feeling like you're lifting your pelvis up. And the legs will go towards straight, but it's a different action than pressing the knees back. And let's try that. So bend your knees quite a bit again and lift up. Now do the action that I'm asking you not to do, which is to straighten the legs. Just take the knees back and kind of notice what that feels like. Now bend your knees again, pull your feet in toward each other, press your feet down very firmly. Feel like you're lifting your pelvis up. That'll give you a nice curve to the low back. Keep on lifting the pelvis, and you'll come towards straight legs. And that is the proper way to come to a straight leg, forward fold, like we're doing. Now, as you come to a twist, you can walk your blocks or your hands over to the right side. Take hold of the left, with your left hand, take hold of the right leg. Take your right hand to your low back and bend both knees again. Let's just try this in the twist. With the knees bent, press your feet firmly down. Lift your pelvis up. Keep on lifting the pelvis up. You'll come towards straight legs as you bend your left elbow to draw your heart a little bit closer toward the straight right leg or the going towards straight right leg. Come back to the center position. Again, do that same action either with your hands on blocks or not. Bend your knees quite a bit. Press down through especially the base of the toes. Pull your legs in toward each other. Feel like you can lift your sit bones as high as possible as you come toward a straight leg. Now inhale, lift yourself up so you've got plenty of space to come to a twist here. As you take your right hand to the outer left leg, bend both knees again. Press down through the base of the toes. Feel like you're lifting your pelvis up as you're drawing your heart toward your left leg. Just get a nice stretch, the right side ribs. And slowly come back to the center position. And same thing, as we come towards straight legs, rather than that pushing the knees back, we're going to do this in two stages. Press down through the base of the toes, press down firmly. Have the whole foot just really feel like it's rooting down nicely. Now lift your sit bones up a little bit more to come towards straight legs. And slowly lift up to heel toe your feet in toward each other. Place your hands to your low back. Place your hands pressing down. Lift yourself up and come to a standing pose. Come to the top of the mat. And now with your palms facing forward, your fingers spread. Inhale, reach your arms up and back. Exhale, come down to the forward fold where you take your hands right alongside your ankles and step your right leg back. Step your left leg back, come to all fours position. From all fours position, lower yourself down to the mat. So draw the chest forward slightly as you do. As you reach your hands back with the palms facing down, press just like when you were at the wall. You were pressing your fingertip tops down and drawing in. So do that with the fingertips. Inhale, lift your legs up as you pull the hands in. Exhale, soften. Do this 2 more times here, strengthening your back muscles to open the chest. Rise up and lift your toes up, Shalabhasana. Exhale, soften. And 1 more time. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, soften. Now come to either all fours position, puppy dog position, downward facing dog. Those of us that meet in downward facing dog, I like to do a little bit more focus on the knees. So with your feet hip distance apart, bend your knees quite a bit. And it's almost like you're just trying to drill down the base of the toes into the mat. Really get a solid foundation with your feet. Now see about lifting your sit bones up as high as possible. It's almost like the pelvis is on like a little winch or something. You're just letting it lift up as much as possible. And through that, you're straightening the legs. Now, let's do it the way that most of us have become accustomed to. All right, so bend your knees just so that you can tell the difference. Bend your knees. Now, to come to straight legs, just push your knees back. Just push them straight back and notice the difference. Now do it the way that we're working on today to really protect the knees. Bend your knees, drill down with your feet as if you've got like some magical winch just pulling your pelvis up. Pull your pelvis up as much as possible as you keep a nice strong steadiness in the arms and you come toward straight legs. The more you lift the pelvis up, the more you drill your feet down, the more you come to this optimal alignment for yourself. Now let's all make our way to the front of the mat. So walk to the front of the mat, hop the way to the front of the mat, however it is for you, and rise up to come to Tadasana. In Tadasana, we often come to Tadasana just again by jamming the knees back. Instead, in the same way that we just did in a downward facing dog, let's bend our knees quite a bit. Drill down through the base of the toes, especially, heels also, but press down especially through the base of the toes. And see about drawing the pelvis way back, way back, way back, as if something is just encouraging the pelvic movement there back to come towards straight legs. Very good. And you come to lift your uh, shoulders up and come to a nice Tadasana in that way, rather than just pushing the knees back, right? So this helps you learn how to engage the hamstrings, which really you need to support the knees. So in your standing pose in Tadasana, we'll try that one more time. Bend your knees. Press down very firmly through the feet. You're drawing down, you're pulling the feet in toward each other. And now the tops of the thighs are being drawn back so that you come to Tadasana with strong engagement of the feet, with the thighs drawing back. Inhale, reach your arms up and slightly back. Exhale, take your heart forward as you come down to the forward fold. Place your hands right alongside your ankles and step back to a plank position. Pause in your plank position. Bend your knees slightly in your plank position. So you're really pressing down to the base of the toes. Lift your pelvis up just slightly. Come towards straight legs and lower yourself all the way down. On the in-breath, reach your arms forward or your arms to your side with your palms facing down. Make a fist with your hands if your hands are forward. Inhale, lift your feet and hands up. Bend your elbows, hug your elbows down, and reach out and lower down. Two more times. Inhale, lift up, bend your elbows, reach out and lower down. And one more time. Inhale, rise up, bend your elbows, reach out and down. Place your hands right alongside your ribs. On the in-breath, draw your heart forward. And on the exhale breath, come up through all fours position to downward facing dog or puppy dog pose and pause there. Those of us in downward facing dog, just to work the actions that we've been getting to know more and more in this practice. Bend your knees, press your feet very firmly down. Start to lift the sit bones up, lift the pelvis up. Keep on lifting until you see your legs going towards straight. Look forward, walk, step, or hop your way to the front of the mat. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Inhale, reach up to the sky and back. Exhale, come down to the earth. Inhale, look forward, and exhale, soften down. Place your hands alongside your ankles. Step your right leg back. And as you step your right leg back, park your right heel down. With your left knee bent, take your hands right above your knee and rise up. Now come to this form of Virabhadrasana number one. And this is the closed hip version. Squaring our hips, meaning take the back hip forward, take the front hip back so the hip points are parallel to the front edge of the mat is just not working. And especially it starts to influence the knees. So Virabhadrasana 1.5, as it's often called, is someplace right between Virabhadrasana 2 and 1, right? So your hips are actually angled toward the corner of your mat, right? Not toward the front edge on this. So just try that because that might be more comfortable, especially for some of us for our knees. Just try that. Inhale, reach your arms up. Take your hands nice and wide apart and draw yourself a little bit lower in the pose. Now that you've got a little bit more freedom, just kind of check that out for you. Bend your back knee just slightly so that you can get those actions that we've been working on. where you press down through the back foot, you draw the thighs back, and through that drawing back, you come toward a straight leg, maybe not completely straight. We don't want to jam the knee back. And exhale, release your hands down. Step your back foot forward. Place your hands to your low back and rise up. Now, with all that action, if the back ankle do not like that position with the heel down, then lift your heel up by all means. Let's step the left leg back. And as you step your left leg back, bend your front knee just slightly. And as you press down through the base of the toes on the left foot, bend the back knee slightly so that you can take the tops of the thighs back more. Again, your hips are angled toward the corner of your mat, not toward the front, like in Virabhadrasana 1. Inhale, reach your arms up and take your hands nice and wide apart. And with the back heel pressing down, or if for some of you that is not good for your ankle, keep the heel lifted up and slowly draw yourself down. And this will ensure that the front knee, this Virabhadrasana 1.5, that the front knee tracks the ankle nicely. And release your hands down. Step your back foot forward. Place both hands to your low back, and with your knees bent, rise up. In your seated pose, have your knees slightly bent. And for some of us, just sitting on a blanket helps. But for this version of Dandasana, turn your hands back so your fingers are pointed in the opposite direction than your feet are, just so that you can get a nice lifting quality of your chest. You can even come to fingertip top positions to help you out. So bend your knees quite a bit so we can do that same action that we've been doing. So during most of the class, I've been saying, especially drill down through the base of the toes. Now you're drilling down through the heels. You're pressing the heels down. And as you press the heels down, draw the thighs back so the knees don't jam into the mat. The thighs are pressing down. You're using your hands just to keep you nicely aligned. Keep on pressing your heels down. Draw your thighs back, and you come toward straight legs. If the knees are slightly bent, that's just fine. Keep the strong action in the legs, not jamming the knees down. Makes such a difference. Take your feet hip distance apart, and a lot of times we hug the block to make sure that that's the proper distance. But for some of us, when our knees get really fussy, we need to do just a slightly different stance. So just as you always do, you can hug the block if you wish. So come to bridge pose with your elbows pressing down, with the tops of the arm bones pressing back. Inhale, lift your pelvis up. Now, if you feel any pain whatsoever in the knees, just try this, all right? Let's all try it, and let's just see how it feels for you. So take your pelvis down. Take your feet, again, this would be a real no-no in most yoga classes here, but you have to really modify the practice to make it work for you, right? So take your feet as wide apart as your mat is. And for some of us, turning the toes out slightly, so it's an external rotation, lift your pelvis up. Now, for some people, this feels so much better on the knees. And if you don't feel any difference, then let's do the proper alignment, right? With your feet lined up with your knees, with your feet hip distance apart. But just check it out. you'll feel like there's a little bit more tone in the pelvic area to protect the knees in this way. Take it down. And now for the third time, you choose like which worked better for you. And hopefully for most of us, feet hip distance apart works fine. But I just wanted to show you the alternative because sometimes, it may be temporary, but sometimes the knees just really aren't so happy in this pose. Lift your pelvis high, and in whatever version of bridge pose you're in, see if you can lift your heart high as you press your head back, as you press your elbows down. Just get this nice fullness in the pose. And slowly take your pelvis down. I'd like to do one more alternative here to protect our knees. When we do Sucirandrasana, where it's kind of like a supine pigeon pose, where your left ankle is just to the outside of the right knee and you pull the thigh in. And it gives the gluteal muscles really a nice stretch here. For today's alternative, rather than that pushing the knee back, sometimes that causes contraction in other areas besides the knee even. So this time, just take your left thigh in front of your right, like you're crossing your thighs, and lift your knees up. You'll still get a nice stretch here in that area, but again, you'll protect the knee nicely. Now lift your head up, take your hands to your shin bones or your ankles, and sometimes we widen the feet away from each other. You can do that if you wish, but take your head down. And as your feet are pulling in toward each other, as your hands are in your shin bones, or for some of you, even your outer ankle bones, you'll start to feel that top leg. You'll start to see a nice opening here in the pelvic area. As you just enjoy a nice opening in that pelvic area. Hopefully your knees are now fully protected in this pose as you hug the thighs in toward each other. Those of you that feel no pain whatsoever in the knees, you can take your feet wider apart, even as the feet are hugging in toward each other. It's a really strong action of the legs. Draw your knees a little bit closer to you. And as you do, you just kind of feel a little bit more engagement, a little bit more fire maybe on that left hip area. And slowly release down. Let's do what form of bridge pose works for you again, whether it be feet hip distance apart or feet wider apart. Press your elbows down, lift your pelvis up, open the chest a lot, open your throat by pressing your head back and lifting your chin away from your chest more fully. Draw your pelvis down and draw your right thigh over your left thigh. Draw your knees in, lift your head up to take your hands at your shin bones, even toward your ankle, and draw down. And to get to that area that we're working with, just pull the knees in a little bit more. Resist with the action of the legs, so you're pulling the shin bones in toward each other. And again, if you feel anything in the knees, then you just have to modify these poses. The alignment instructions that we give in class, work for 99 out of 100 students, but you might be that one student that this, because of certain idiosyncratic aspects, you've just got to modify your pose. And it's only through your own practice will you start to discover these modifications that you need. So keep on pulling your feet in toward one another. Strong action of the legs allow you to take your knees a little bit closer to your chest. Arms are still working nicely. And release your legs to plant your feet down with your feet hip distance apart, with your elbows pressing down, with your palms facing each other. Inhale, lift your pelvis up and draw from the elbows toward your heart. Open your chest, come to a bridge pose that works well for you. And slowly draw down. Today, we worked on several things to inspire the hamstrings in such a way that the knees are protected in a lot of our actions. You just kind of close your eyes and assimilate and kind of think about those actions that you did. Hold those actions with you. These variations in the yoga practice that we play with help us dive a little bit deeper into the knowledge of our own physical body. And with that knowledge, you feel stronger, certainly physically, but you feel a little bit more in control, like you've got this. Like you're starting to understand your own body, which brings on a certain feeling of confidence. With this knowledge of your own capabilities, it helps you go deeper in the practice. As you lie in Shavasana, become familiar with your sound, the sound of the breath. Enjoy Shavasana. Thank you for the practice. Namaste.